The Ford Maverick Lobo is different from the rest of the Maverick lineup, not just because of its unique exterior highlights like the wheels and the front end, but it's got a unique drivetrain setup and a unique powertrain setup too, which I'll touch on as we dive in deeper. And in this video, I'm going to unpack the Maverick Lobo and explain the differences between the Maverick Lobo and some of the higher trim levels of the ride. The one in behind me here is in the beautiful Velocity Blue exterior. The Maverick Lobo has the advanced four-wheel drive system, so it's a similar twin clutch setup that you're going to find inside of the Tremor, but the only difference is that this doesn't have the locker. But because of the torque vectoring, like it just leads to like the handling, the responsiveness inside of the truck is excellent. And if we look at the turning radius here, good, also solid. Back up to speed. So it's great. But if your plan is to go off pavement, I would still recommend looking at the Tremor over the Lobo. And the big reason why is because inside of the Tremor, it's going to be about an inch and change higher than the regular Maverick. But the Lobo is half an inch shorter in the front end and then an inch lower in the rear end compared to the regular Maverick. So you get way more ground clearance for the Tremor in comparison to the Lobo. But if you're just going to do gravel roads and things like that, you'll be fine in the Lobo. But yeah, for more of like those off pavement, not necessarily rock crawly type of tracks, I would go Tremor, hands down. Beautiful. You're going to find a few different wheel sizes and styles inside of the Maverick for the wheels. The Lobo, though, has these 19-inch turbofan wheels that are very different from the rest of the lineup. Pretty funky looking too, but there are different wheel options available for the Lobo specifically right from the factory. But the 19-inch rubber are solid. You also do get a unique Lobo drive mode, which is going to unlock better track-only performance inside of this version. You're going to find LED headlamps inside of the Maverick regardless of the trim level that you're looking at. They've got a beautiful LED setup with fogs down below. But the front end, the grille specifically, is what sets the Lobo apart from the rest of the Maverick lineup. So there is a unique grille design, and you've got black badges throughout the vehicle too, which just makes this truck that little bit more unique. There's a high package available inside of the Lobo version of the Maverick, which is going to give you excellent technology. So things like a forward park sensing system and a front-facing camera are available inside of this ride. Underneath the hood of the Maverick, there are two different engine choices that are available. So you've got either the hybrid version, so it's a traditional hybrid, but then there's the 2-liter turbocharged version instead. Inside of the Maverick Lobo, the only engine choice is the 2-liter turbo. And unlike the rest of the Maverick lineup with the 2-liter, it has a 7-speed automatic transmission. So it essentially skips second gear, so it gives it a much sportier performance in comparison to the rest of the Maverick lineup. The Maverick Lobo also has this Lobo mode, which technically for track use, but we're going to use it as a sport mode here, utilizing the paddles. Actually, you know what? I'm just going to let the car do its thing. So you could use paddles, but let's get back up to highway speed, just letting the car do its thing. Go in 3, 2, and beautiful. Yeah, so that's not available just because of the drive mode that I was in there. But you've got your normal modes, sport modes, etc. Yeah, getting up to speed there was easy enough. All right, now, the performance there is fantastic. The benefits of the paddles, like if you wanted to drop down gears in order to be able to shoot up your RPMs a little bit, we'll cancel speed for a second here. So you can drop down gears manually yourself, you can see there. RPMs are shooting up. So if you want, the turbo inside of this car is excellent. I don't know, but I'm a big fan of kind of hearing that turbo whine. It just sounds sportier in comparison. And the Lobo absolutely achieves that. You put your foot down and you can kind of hear that turbo whine as you go. You don't really have to worry about it from a basic power perspective. So there's not really much of a lag. But yeah, the sound of the Lobo is so good in comparison to the regular 2-liter, in my opinion. Underneath the hood here is nice and simple. There's no engine cover hiding off any components, but it's a fairly clean setup. If you're doing any sort of work yourself, you can easily change your oil, and then there's also easy access to top up your wiper fluid. The warranty inside of the Ford world is also pretty solid, so 3 years for your basic, 5 years for powertrain, but it's like any car. Take care of it. Regularly scheduled maintenance, regular oil changes. The 2-liter engine inside of Ford vehicles has been fairly bulletproof. You just have to take care of it a little bit more than you would a non-turbocharged engine. But these things can last if you treat them right. The Maverick Lobo, similar to the rest of the lineup, features manual folding side view mirrors. There are cameras built in when you get that higher packaged option. There's also a blind spot monitoring system. They're power adjustable and heated. There's intelligent access here too, so you can push here to lock the doors, slide in order to unlock. But before we get inside there, similar to the rest of the Maverick lineup, just got your basics along the door here, side view mirror with window control. There are 2 different speaker choices that are available inside of the Maverick. It's either a 6-speaker system or an 8-speaker system. When you get into the high package of the Lobo, that's where you get the 8-speaker audio system. Power adjustable seats are there too. Got the rubberized trays, which, I mean, these are so much nicer than the carpeted mats. So I'd go rubberized trays, hands down. And on the inside here, so I've got the, there we go, driver's seat as far down as it's going to go here. And up overhead, I've got 3.5, 4-ish inches of headspace. So if you're 6'4", maybe 6'5", you should be okay in here. You might have to move the seat back and recline a little bit though. But it's plenty spacious inside of this ride. I mean, there are so many different things. Look at that, I love it. Got an ActiveX seating material inside of the Lobo trim. And then you've got unique stitching that follows all the way throughout the seat, the armrest, and even into the steering wheel and the vents. Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Ford Maverick. Well, this is the Lobo trim level of the ride, and it's the high package. So this is a similar setup that you're going to see inside of the Lobo along with the Lariat and then the Tremor package. If you're looking for a walkthrough on the XL or the XLT without factory navigation, etc., you'll find those walkthroughs down in the description of this video. But one thing I'll point out about the steering wheel is that it may be heated depending on the trim. You're going to find the button to turn it on or off just on the bottom side of the infotainment system there. The steering wheel is also going to be manual telescoping across the lineup. So down by your left knee there, there's a release. So you're just going to drop down and full telescoping. So in and out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you do, click it in order to lock it back into place. And there are so many different buttons and stocks, but starting off just down by your left knee here. So you've got the option of toggling your bed lighting on or off. And then you've also got the switch here for your different lights, which I'll explain in a second there. You can toggle fogs on or off, and then you can also increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster and the infotainment system just using that switch. Now with your lights, you're going to be in the auto mode the majority of the time. That's definitely the way to go. There's an auto high beam mode that's available there. What's going to happen is if the vehicle recognizes that high beams are needed later on at night, it turns them on automatically. You can push away later on at night in order to be able to lock them on, but the downside is right now we can't permanently lock them on. You can just flash them. In order to permanently lock on your high beams, you've got different light modes there. So obviously with the lights off, you've got your auto and then your headlamp mode. So you've got to go into the headlamp mode, which is the bottom mode there. And then you can push away to permanently lock your high beams on and then just pull towards you in order to turn them off. But like I said, auto mode means that the vehicle figures out when those high beams are on or off. Obviously got your blinker there. Along the right hand side is going to be for your wipers. So you can go one down in order to give yourself just a quick wipe. If you go up one level, that's when you can use the rocker switch in the middle to control how fast or slow rain's hitting the windshield. And then you've got some of the crazy modes there too. And then you're just going to pull in towards you in order to get that wiper fluid going. This version of the truck also has paddle shifters. So you've got your plus along the right-hand side, minus along the left. So if you wanted to drop gears in order to shoot up your RPMs to give you some speed to pass people, you can do that. It's a beautiful system, but if you've never used paddles before, check down in the description of this video for a walkthrough on how to use them, when, and why. And then there are so many different buttons. So first ones we'll start off with are the buttons along the very bottom. So you can adjust out your audio volume this way, or mute. And then you can also control your audio down this way. So you can adjust it this way or push in order to be able to toggle your audio on or off. And then you've got your cruise control options here. So you can toggle the cruise control system on by pushing this button. And when you do, I mean, I'm parked right now, but if you were driving, it would set it at whatever your current speed is. You could then increase or decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. You can push and hold up or push and hold down in order to increase, decrease at larger increments. If you were driving, so as you're speeding up, if you were to then push up to set your speed, it would set it at a newer speed as you're driving, or, like I said, move up or down this way. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the X button there to cancel your speed, and then you'd push the resume button in the middle in order to resume your previously set speed. Now, there are 2 different types of cruise control available inside of this ride. So it's either going to be adaptive cruise or there's your old school normal cruise control. The normal cruise control is exactly that. So you set it at, let's say, 80. If the car in front of you slows down, yours will not brake. Versus the adaptive cruise, that's where this gap adjustment button comes into play. So there are 4 unique levels. That's how close or far are you from a leading vehicle. I'm personally okay on level 1, but you might want to be on 2, 3, or 4, depending on your own personal comfort level. So the way that one works, let's say if you set it at 80, the car in front of you slows down, yours will automatically brake. They change lanes, you change lanes, it'll pick you back up to your previously set speed. In order to change between the different types of cruise control, inside of the infotainment system, if you go to Features, Driver Assistance, you've got cruise control there. So you can toggle between either the normal or the adaptive cruise control. And then there's also lane centering. So there's your lane centering system, but there's also the lane keeping system that you can toggle on or off. The 2 systems are different. So the lane keeping system, I'll explain that one in a second, versus lane centering. If the vehicle recognizes lane markings and your hands are off the steering wheel for up to 10 seconds, it's not self-driving, but as long as the lane markings are recognized, it can keep you perfectly balanced around bends, things like that. So if you lose focus for a second, rubbernecking like an idiot, whatever the case may be. So you can toggle that system on or off. There's also predictive speed assist with a tolerance level. So where this comes into play, are you okay with going over or under the speed limit, and by how much? But with predictive speed, that works 2 different ways. As you're going around a bend, the vehicle can actually lower your speed for you, assuming you're actively using the adaptive cruise control system. And then the predictive speed assist, let's say if the speed goes from 60 down to 50, it can decrease your speed automatically. If it goes from 50 up to 60, it can increase your speed automatically too, but that's based off of your tolerance level. So let's say if you say that you're okay with going 10 over, it goes from 60 down to 50, your speed wouldn't change. If it goes from 60 down to 40, it would lower your speed by 10. So you've got that available as an option. I'm personally not a big fan of that one. And then you've got your lane keep, you've got the option for speed limit assist, so you can get a speed warning if you're going a bit too fast. Not crazy about that one, but lane keeping is the other big one. So there are 3 different options there, so you can toggle it on or off this way. So the first one is going to be an alert. So if you start to veer over into another lane without signaling, you'll get a little bit of a steering wheel vibration, almost as if you're running over a rumble pavement or there's something wrong with your alignment. There's nothing wrong, it's just that you're moving into a lane without signaling. The aid would actually nudge you back into your lane, and the alert and the aid would do both. So you'd get a steering wheel vibration and it would nudge you back into your lane too. You can toggle it off if you really want to, but it's a pretty good safety setting. Just do yourself a favor and use your turn signal. And then there's the intensity, and that's the intensity of that steering wheel vibration. That's pretty simple, but if you want a live demonstration of actually using the cruise control system and you want to see it used in person, check out in the description of this video for that little walkthrough. And then you've got a boatload of other buttons here. So you'd be able to change between all of your different stations. So if you have presets set up, you'd be able to move left versus right in order to be able to change out your presets. You can also do a push and hold there too if you'd like to, and it acts as a very slow seek button. You can answer or hang up on a phone call this way, and you've also got your voice command prompt. So you'd be able to do this in order to do things like change songs, radio stations. You can navigate using your voice. There are some basic climate control options that you can control with your voice too. And then if you had an Android and iPhone device hooked up, you'd be able to do a long button push and hold.
Search for your vehicle on your device and
that would act as either a Google or a Siri assisted button. If you didn't have a phone hooked up, you could also then launch into hooking a phone up that way too. You've got your mode options here, and that's going to be your available drive modes. So slippery mode on the outside there, that's going to play with your traction stability control, good for wintertime driving. Your eco mode is more for like your best possible fuel economy. So if you're just cruising on the highway, go for eco. Normal is just going to be for your regular day-to-day driving. Sport mode is beautiful. So it gives you a slightly different look inside of the cluster screen, but where this mode comes into play is it changes up your shift points. So rather than the vehicle shifting at, let's say, 2,500 RPM, it might wait and shift at 4,000 or 5,000 plus RPM instead. So it gives you a much sportier performance in comparison. And then you've got a tow mode if you're towing a trailer. And then this is the Lobo trim. So you've got a unique Lobo mode too. If you had the FX4 off-road package or the Tremor, that would have a unique drive mode specifically for off-road driving too. But this one, it's going to disable. I can see that traction control is disabled here. So it says track use only. Yeah, it's fun to use, but that option is available here too. But you're going to be in, I'd say either normal or sport mode the majority of the time, just depending on what your driving habits are. And then you've got a few other buttons here in order to be able to navigate through that cluster screen. And then inside of the cluster screen, you've got your engine temperature along the left side, your fuel gauge along the right side, with your mileage till empty along the very bottom side there. You do also have the flexibility of being able to change out your measurement units. So inside of the infotainment system, if you go to your settings, general, measurement unit, you can change out either between miles per gallon or kilometers and liters. So if you're cross-border, you'll be able to easily swap that out, and you can see it just makes the change really simple to do. Now, if you're in, well, outside of the States, so you're going to be in the kilometers and liters per 100. You've got the option of going kilometers per liter, but you're going to be used to this measurement. So make sure you have this one selected, the middle one there. And then back, the other one you can change out is your tire pressure. So do you want to be measured in PSI, KPA, or bar? And then you've got the auto start stop system, whether or not that one's enabled. There's a switch just underneath the rotary dial shifter to toggle that one on or off. If you do toggle it off, every time you turn the vehicle off and then back on again, you just have to turn that system off again. You can see what gear that you're currently in, so park, reverse, neutral, drive. As you drop into your manual mode, you then see what gear you're in as you start to use the paddles. Your outside temperature is there, along with your current odometer. And then you've got your tachometer along the outside there, your current road speed, and then you've got your current vehicle speed, and then whatever direction that you're facing. If you have an active route going on factory navigation, it would also show you your turn-by-turn directions there. So it's not full mapping cluster, just your little turn-by-turn. And then as you have the lane keeping system toggled on or off, you're going to notice a slightly different look. If you ever get messages in the cluster, you can just push the OK button along the right side of the steering wheel there in order to be able to get rid of any messages that you have. You can see there, slightly different look when we've got that lane keeping system enabled. And then along the right side there, you've got the flexibility of using the buttons along the top side here in order to move between a few different pages. So you can just do a basic back in order to go to more like a naked screen. So if you like things a little bit easier, and as we get rid of that lane keeping system, it kind of cleans it up a little bit more. So you can kind of customize the display a tiny little bit. There's not many customization options outside of that. You can look at your basic MyView screen, which the MyView screen would give you the flexibility of adding in different trip counters, fuel economy, things like that. So if we look at configure MyView, it's which pages do you want showing up on that MyView screen. So if you just want a trip 1, trip 2, etc., that's available. You can jump into individual counters too. So if you wanted your trip 1 counters, you've got your fuel economy there, FM, your compass view, and then your tire pressure. As you go back into your basic view, so again, we can toggle into MyView this way or dive into your trip economy. So if you wanted to go your AB counters, you could do that. You can push into any of these counters there. And then in order to reset, you're just going to take the OK button in the steering wheel there and push and hold it for a few seconds, and that's going to let you reset that. So that's the same trip 1 versus trip 2 counter, and then your overall fuel economy as well. Moving back to our menu, you've got towing. So if you have a trailer connected, you'll be able to see your towing status as well as your light status. Basic status information for the vehicle, specifically for seatbelts. So if the vehicle senses that there's weight on the seat, whether or not that seatbelt's plugged in, yay or nay. There is vehicle maintenance information available, so if you're doing oil changes yourself, you can look at your tire pressure, so PSI, KPA, etc., depending on how you have it set up. Audio is available there, so this is going to be for all of your active sources. So for your presets, you can see your presets this way, but it's kind of a jumbled mess. You're kind of guessing what presets you're jumping to. So your best bet, once you've got your presets set up, so you're just going to be using the buttons along the bottom right side of the steering wheel there to change between your presets, or using the voice command prompt in order to be able to change out your presets that way. Phone is grayed out right now, and the reason why that one's grayed out is because there are no phones actively connected. But if there was, you'd be able to jump in order to be able to make phone calls and a few other things, and then navigation. If you have factory navigation inside of your Maverick, you'd then be able to jump through for any addresses you've got set up. So your home address, if it's there, previous destinations, point of interest icons, things like that. You do also have the flexibility of using your voice in order to navigate that way. So if you have a home address set up, you could say navigate home, or you could say navigate to a gas station, etc. And then you'd be able to select between different lists or different options available. You've got some basic vehicle settings that are available. So screen content. Do you want to show a secondary speedometer? So if you're going cross-border, you'll be able to show both. Do you want to show your tachometer? And then do you want turn-by-turn indication? So if you do have factory navigation, do you want that showing up? It's just that because I don't have a route going, it's not showing. And then for your gauge view, do you want your classic, or do you want just the digital speed showing? So it's not a big difference between the two. So if we just go for your speedometer there for a second and back out. So really it doesn't change up the look too much. And then the tachometer view, whether or not it's going to be there along the outside. So again, it's just pulling off different settings if you wanted to make it a little bit more of like a clean, simple look. And then back again. Yeah, I'm personally a bigger fan of having that look there too. So you'd have the digital speed, and then you'd have the speed go up as you start to speed up. This is the infotainment system that you're going to find inside of the Ford Maverick. There are two different versions that are available. One of them has factory navigation and the other one doesn't. You'll find factory nav inside of the highest trimmed options. If you want to walk through on the version without nav, you'll find that down in the description of this video. But let's dive in and I'll show you what you need to know. Along the top side, you've got a little home icon. So if you're on any screen, you can just tap there to go back to this main home screen. You can tap the clock along the top if you wanted to adjust your clock settings. Top right side, if you've got a phone on the wireless charge pad, that would show up. It would also show you your current connection level and then the outside temperature there. Along the bottom, all of your climate control settings are built into the screen. So you'll be able to adjust out your heated seats along the outside there. So you can either push a few times there, or you can use this as a slider instead. And that's the same thing with a few others. So you've got your heated steering wheel there, adjusting your actual temperature using the slider, up and down this way, etc. You can control your fan speed this way, plus minus this way. And then you've also got your auto modes, more advanced climate control settings. So do you want to go into your windshield, face, feet, etc. Toggle climate off. And then you've got some other basics. So your dual zone climate control there too. This part of the screen is locked into place. So you'll always have your factory maps there, along with your current audio, if your phone is connected, and then a series of different settings. So let's start off with factory navigation. Using the system is really easy, but here's the thing. It requires an active data plan through Ford Pass in order to be able to use it. So it's going through the Ford Pass app on your phone. If you want to walk through on setting up the Ford Pass app, whether that's Android, iPhones, etc., it works the same way. You'll find a walkthrough down in the description of this video. So if you don't have an active connection, like an active data connection there, you're not going to be able to use factory navigation. What would happen is it would just be like what we're looking at here. It's a dead moving map. So it would follow you around as you're driving. You just wouldn't be able to enter your end destination there. Well, it's one downside of the navigation system. I wish that it was just a built-in like other Ford products, but unfortunately it's connected. So if you don't have the service set up, you won't be able to use it, but that's where using your phone would come into play. But you'd be able to search by GPS coordinates, so latitude first, longitude second, point of interest icons, and things like that. Back to your home screen here, you've also got radio with a series of different sources. So AM, FM, Sirius XM, and Bluetooth. If you had a USB stick with MP3s and other audio files, you'd also be able to listen to those there too. But AM, FM, Sirius XM, they all work the exact same way. You've got all of your presets along the bottom that are a mix of the three different sources. So you can go either way if you'd like to. You can tune to a station this way if you want. You can do a direct tune this way. So if you know the station that you wanted to tune to, you can enter it in easily that way. And then you can also hit the voice command prompt. 97.7 FM.
Tuning to FM 97.7.
You can also change audio using your voice there if you'd like. If you wanted to save in a preset, all you're going to do is tune to whatever station you want to, and then you can overwrite any of these stations. You can't delete them. You can just do an overwrite there if you'd like to. And so mix of AM, FM, Sirius XM. You can change the stations this way if you'd like to. There are a series of advanced sound settings that are available here too. So with your sound settings, you can adjust out your treble, mid-range, and bass. What I'd recommend is playing one of your favorite songs and then adjust these out until it sounds perfect for you. I've found in the Maverick, something like this tends to work well, but that's going to come down to a matter of personal preference. You can also adjust out the balance and fade. So do you want it driver focused, rear focused, etc., or back to the middle there. Speed compensated volume. As you're going faster or slower, it can automatically raise or lower the volume for you. There's an available sound mode, so either stereo or surround, depending on the type of experience you want. And then Sirius XM gives us same basic options here too, but because it's Sirius XM, you've got the flexibility of being able to play pause live radio there too. And you saw earlier, going through all of your different stations, change stations this way if you'd like to, left versus right. And then you could browse all of your available categories, so music, sports, etc. You've also got this little bell icon along the very top. So if you're a big fan of either the artist or the song, you'd be able to then tap in order to be able to get a notification letting you know. So if on any Sirius XM station, the artist or the song starts playing, you'd then be able to get a notification, and then you could just launch right into that station if you like. You can see related info, look at some sound settings for Sirius XM specifically, or you can go to adjust your preset pages. So we have 2 basic pages along the bottom. You can go up to 5 pages. So as you swipe around, you can have up to 5 individual pages across the side, so 30 individual presets, which are mixed. But I saw there, 2 right now. You can look at your Sirius XM favorites. There's listening history on top of that. Adding in a phone is pretty straightforward.
Search
so just
for
tap
your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
add phone, and then you're just going to jump into your vehicle's Bluetooth. And we're looking for, there we go, Ford Maverick to show up.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. Do you want to allow contacts and favorites to sync up? This is not my car, so I'm going to say no there. And pairing is successful.
For your safety, please stay alert to changing road conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
So you can stop here right now, and we're connected over Bluetooth, so you'll be able to make phone calls and stream audio. But you've also got CarPlay support inside of the ride. It's backwards compatible, so you can go USB if you'd like to. That's either USB Type A or Type C. And you plug yourself in using one of the USB ports, but it's got support for wireless. So let's go ahead and use that. Do you want to use CarPlay with the Maverick? Let's go ahead and use CarPlay. Oh, and enable. And 3, 2, we are fully connected to CarPlay right now. Now you've got this little split screen here too, so you can swipe across into different elements, but you can also tap this little guy along the top side in order to jump into a full screen CarPlay experience here too. And then on the CarPlay side of things, so you've got your current time, connection, and battery level. And then these are the apps that were last open. So there's your last open map, audio application, miscellaneous. You can tap here to get to an icon view, the home screen for CarPlay, or swipe across. This screen here is kind of locked into place. So you'll always have whatever map was open last year. And then you've got your search box and audio box that will always be there. If you have a calendar notification that's coming up today and it hasn't passed, that would show up here. But outside of that, you can't customize that screen. But if you can't even get to this point because CarPlay is just not working for you, check down in the description of this video for a few fixes that you can try to get CarPlay working again. You can also do a light push here in order to be able to activate the assistant for the vehicle. But then if you were to take that same button and push and hold it, that's going to launch into your Siri Assistant. And then just tap back to get inside of CarPlay again. You've got a boatload of different apps that are available. Apple Maps, Google Maps, and Waze are all here. But unfortunately, no pinch to zoom capabilities. You can at least slide around if you wanted to. I'm personally a bigger fan of using Waze in pretty much any device. And the big reason why is because as you're driving, if there are speed traps set up, if there are accidents and things like that, people are pretty good at marking that stuff off. And you can mark things off along your route too. So if you notice that there's a speed trap, you notice that there's crashes, hazards on the road, etc., you can let other drivers know. YouTube Music is available here, and it's strictly YouTube Music, so you don't have YouTube video playback support inside of CarPlay. And then you can also customize this screen a little bit. So if you tap on your settings here, you can put yourself into driving focus if you wanted to, but you've also got the option of adjusting with the wallpaper. So if there's a color scheme that works better for you, you'd have the flexibility of being able to set it up so that this could be something unique. And then you can also customize the icon layout here. In order to be able to do that inside of your settings, so phone settings here, you're just going to go to General, CarPlay, find your vehicle. You can forget it or you can customize it. So you've got all of your available icons here. So if you wanted, I don't know, maybe go podcast along the top and you wanted to use Waze, you can do a drag and drop in order to adjust these out. You can also remove things. So anything with a minus next to it can be removed. So just go remove, remove, and it's going to start removing icons from the screen. You could add them back in along the very bottom there if you'd like to. But if you started playing around with the layout and you don't like what you've done, along the top right side of your phone, there's a reset option. So just tap reset, reset, and that's just going to bring you back to the factory default icon layout. You can tap back home in order to get out of CarPlay if you want to. You can tap here to get back into CarPlay, or the little icon along the top right side of the screen there launches you back in. If you wanted to go back to your little split screen there, you easily could. Back home from here. If you were to go settings, phone list, you're now currently connected to CarPlay for this one device, but you can disconnect from CarPlay if you just wanted to be connected over Bluetooth instead. So rather than all the CarPlay features, we're just going to be using this phone for phone calls now. But that's how you set up Apple devices inside the Ford Maverick. Setting up Android devices inside of the Ford Maverick is a pretty straightforward process. If you weren't on this phone screen here, so let's say you're back home, all you're going to do, tap into your settings there, phone list, and then add
Search
phone.
for your vehicle on your device and select it once it is found.
And on the device, we've got the Ford Maverick there.
Confirm that the pin displayed on sync matches the pin displayed on your device.
Pins match up. Do you want Alexis to contacts?
Safety, please stay alert to changing
Messages
road
there.
conditions and use Sync's voice-activated features while your vehicle is in motion.
So, as of right now, we've connected over Bluetooth, so you'll be able to make phone calls and stream audio. I said no to those messages that popped up for contacts and for messages because it's not my car. But you've also got wireless Android Auto. It's backwards compatible, so you could use a USB cable plugged in down the center stack there. But let's use wireless. So just going to tap enable. And then on your device, welcome to Android Auto. So let's just go ahead and continue. And look at that. We are now fully connected. So you've got your little Android Auto setup here with your split screen for the infotainment system inside of the Maverick. But you've got this little guy along the top right side. So those little arrows, you can tap that in order to go full screen if you'd like to. I'm just a bigger fan of that. So you've got your full screen applications there. You can also go full screen Google Maps. So if you're not a fan of this little split screen setup, you can tap the little Google Maps icon there to go full screen. There's full pinch to zoom capabilities inside of this on top of that, which is great. You've got your basic search there, some basic icons along the outside. So you can see here your current connection and then your battery level. And then you've got a series of miscellaneous apps along the bottom. You can tap here in order to activate your voice assistant for your phone. You can push and hold the voice command prompt along the steering wheel in order to be able to activate your assistant that way too. I've got Waze installed on this device, but if you've got Waze installed on your Android and it's not showing up, check down in the description of this video for some common fixes that you can try. And then you've also got the flexibility of customizing the icon layout here. In order to do it on your phone, you're just going to search for Android Auto, look for your Android Auto settings, and then you're just going to go customize launcher. You've got a boatload of options available here. You could just do a drag and drop. So just on the outside there, is it going to let me? Yeah, there we go. So you can do a drag and drop in order to be able to adjust out the icon layout here. Anything with a check mark next to it, you can either add it or remove it to the screen. But in order for these changes to come into effect, all you have to do, hop back home, go to your settings, phone list, disconnect from Android Auto, reconnect to Android Auto, and look at that. The changes that we've made here have now come into effect. If you go back to your home screen and to your settings again, so we've got our phones, and both phones have been connected. So you can either be hooked up to Android Auto or Apple CarPlay, not both, but you can do a little mix and match. So you can see here, we can do a mix and match there. So maybe you've got two different phones and you wanted one phone connected for phone calls, one phone connected for media, you can do that. You can tap phone settings here if you wanted to look at some advanced phone settings. Nothing overly exciting, but connection options, we've got both phones. If we go back, we can delete devices. So just tap delete and yes, and phone list, delete and yes, and you're set to go. And it's that easy setting up Android and iPhone devices inside of this ride. You've got a series of different settings that are available inside of the vehicle here too. So Sirius XM, which we've already seen. And the reason why that's Sirius XM is because we're currently on Sirius XM for our source. But if you change to FM for a second, or AM either way, if we go back to our settings now, that gives us radio instead. So you'll be able to toggle your HD radio on off, show radio text, or adjust out your preset pages. So do you just want a single page, or do you want to go up to your 5 individual pages there? You can add in a phone. Sync navigation is available there, so that's just going to pull up all of your available navigation settings. You can adjust out your map orientation, so do you want to be 2D, 3D, etc. You can adjust the voice as well, so when you're coming to an upcoming turn, do you get a voice and a tone, strictly a voice, or a little tone, so a chime letting you know. You can show traffic, you can avoid different things on your route. Do you want to avoid highways, toll roads, etc.? You can show different things on your map too, so all of your different point of interest icons. You can look at weather and then a series of advanced settings too. So route and map preferences, you can show your 3D view, dynamic reroute if that's available. For your route, do you want the fastest or the most eco-friendly route? Then there are breadcrumbs. Think of that like Hansel and Gretel. So if you're actively using the map inside of the ride, it's going to put little dots in all of the areas that you've been to. So if you end up getting lost, let's say if you're going off pavement, you've got that option so you can kind of see where you've been. It's a pretty neat setting. There's some alert preferences if you're coming to an upcoming school zone, cross-border, etc. And then your about information, and then enhanced navigation features, which you do need an active setting, a service in order to be able to use. There's some sound settings, which we've already seen, so adjusting out your tone settings, etc. A series of advanced vehicle settings here too. So 30-minute max idle means that after 30 minutes, the vehicle is going to turn off. If you're going to a drive-in, toggle this thing off. Rear occupant alert. So when you go to turn the vehicle off, do you get an alert or horn and an alert? So it's essentially just letting you know that you've maybe forgotten somebody in the back seat. There's your onboard serial number. Remote start is available here, and that's remote start through the Keyfob or the available Ford Pass app on your phone. If you want to walk through on that Ford Pass app, setting it up, you'll find that walkthrough down in the description. But you can toggle remote start off completely so it just won't happen. But then with remote start, do you want the climate to be based off of what the vehicle thinks it should be, or based off of your last settings? Do you want your heated seats, if they were available, heated steering wheel to come on automatically, yay or nay? It's going to be temperature dependent. And then the duration of the remote start. So either 5, 10, or 15 minutes. You can adjust out your wipers. So courtesy wipe. So if you've got your wipers going, so you've actually pulled in and it's got fluid going, at the end of the wipe cycle, it's going to go one more time in order to get rid of any excess liquid. You've got some lighting options. So your auto high beams are available. And then you've also got your auto lamp delay. So when you go to lock the vehicle, do the lamps just turn off or do they stay on for up to 2 minutes? There is some ambient lighting available inside the ride. There's not much to it though, but it's there. And then there are options for your locks. So auto unlock when you want the doors to automatically unlock. Let's see, when you go to remote unlock on the key fob, do all doors become unlocked or is it just the driver's door? And then intelligent access. So with the key fob on you, you'd be able to touch the door handle in order to get inside. But there are some pretty neat key fob tricks that you can do, and I'll show you with the remote start setup. Let's hop outside and I'll show you how the key fob works. In order to use remote start inside of the truck, you're just going to push the lock button once and then that circle button twice. So you're just going to go lock first, circle, circle, in order to start the truck up. To cancel remote start, push and hold that button in the middle there. So that circle button again. There are a few different features that are available inside of the Ford Pass app. So things like remote starting are available. It works the same for Android and iPhone devices. If you want to walk through on that app, you'll find it down in the description. Now, there's no release for the tailgate here, but you can use that little emergency access key if you wanted to lock it, which is pretty useful. When the truck is locked, the fuel door, unfortunately, is unlocked, but it does have anti-siphon technology built in. There are some clock settings available, which I showed you earlier. You can either tap the clock or dive in deeper. You can adjust your clock manually this way. Do you prefer to be in that military time instead, so 12 versus 24-hour mode? And then auto time update is available there too. Actually, keep that one updated. The only time you may not want to do auto time update is if you live somewhere where you straddle a time zone and it's constantly flipping you from one time zone to the other. There are a series of general settings, so you've got your language available for either English, Spanish, or French. There's also going to be your temperature available here too, so you can either go Celsius or Fahrenheit. So if we swap that out, tire pressure, do you want to measure in PSI, kPa, or bar? There's a beep. That's available here too, so you can toggle that beep off. And then you can also do a full factory reset. There's a way to do a soft screen reboot, which I'll show you in just a minute here, but full factory reset is essentially going to wipe everything from the infotainment system. You've got some basic display settings here too, so you could turn it into calming screen, bring it back to life again. You can adjust the brightness this way too, so you can easily go brightness up, down this way. There are a few different modes available. So right now we're in the auto mode, and it's technically the daytime mode, but you can lock it into the day or the night mode, just depending on what you like the look of. I'm personally a bigger fan, that nighttime look. I love the blue, but you can go auto, which means that it's going to flip between the day or the nighttime mode, just depending on how bright it is outside. There are some basic options for connectivity. Connected vehicle features are here. You could share information with Ford if you'd like to. Just keep that one turned off. And then you've got Bluetooth information where you could change your vehicle name. So if you don't want it to be Ford Maverick, you want it to be Bob's truck, you can change out that name. So when you're connecting through Bluetooth on your phone, that's going to be the new name that you're searching for. And you can connect to a Wi-Fi network at home if you'd like to. A vehicle hotspot is available there. Same thing, you do need to have an active plan in order for this to work, but rather than relying on your phone's data, you'd be able to hook up your phones to the vehicle here and use it as a wireless hotspot instead. Mobile apps, which I've never been a fan of this. It's never really worked properly for me, so just hook up through CarPlay or Android Auto to use your apps that way. You can check to see if software updates are available. And one of the benefits here, so you can turn on auto updates, which means it'll automatically update for you, but you can also set a schedule. Because sometimes the updates that download might take 2 to 3 hours to download and a few hours to install. So I would actually recommend either creating a custom schedule or using one of these preset schedules instead for when the updates are done. At least that way you know that they're done when the truck's going to be parked. Let's see, update details, nothing exciting there. Ford Assistant is available here too. So you can have it listen for a wake word. So rather than pushing the voice command prompt, in order to pull this up, you can now say, "Okay, Ford," in order to pull up that assistant, or you can change it up to one of these other options instead. There's an advanced mode available here too. There's confirmation, so do you want to call such and such person, yay or nay? And then you've got your command list. The advanced mode, where that comes into play. 94.9 FM.
Tuning to FM 94.9.
So it lets us know that it's doing something, versus if we just toggle the advanced mode on, 97.7 FM. It just does it. So I'm a bigger fan of keeping advanced mode on. And then you've got your command list. So that's the list that pops up here. But you've also got your command help, and it shows you everything that you can do. You can control so many things using your voice, adjusting the climate if you want to. You could change out your media, phone, you can make phone calls, radio, and there are so many different things. If you have navigation inside of your ride, you could set up a route there too. It's pretty simple to use, but feature packed. 911 Assist is here too. You do need to have a phone connected to the vehicle, but if you're in a major accident, it can automatically dial 911 for you. And there's Valet mode. So Valet mode, you enter in a 4-digit PIN and it essentially locks the screen out. So people can't just look through your device. It's actually pretty useful. Don't use 0000. Use something tricky, but watch this. Like that. So your climate's still usable, but nothing else on the screen is usable again. even on an ignition cycle. So even if you turn the car off, back on again, until you enter that 4-digit PIN. Pretty neat. So those are all of your basic settings. Back home, you've got a few different features available too. There's a pre-collision assist system. So if you're potentially going to get into a collision, it can automatically brake for you. So it's going to ideally minimize the impact of a collision or completely avoid it. You've got your emergency braking there. Steering assist is almost like a hypersensitivity mode for the steering wheel. Rear view camera delay. So if you're in reverse and then you go into drive, it's going to keep that rear view camera on for a few seconds. Blind spot system. If somebody enters the blind spot on either side, you can see there it's highlighting. It lets you know if somebody enters the blind spot on either side of the vehicle. Your parking aid sensors are available there too, so you can toggle them off if you like. The big benefit there is that if you're going off pavement, so doing some off-road adventures, etc., you just don't like them, you can toggle both the front and rear sensors off. Cross-traffic alert if you're going to back up. And there's somebody in behind you there that's going to let you know of a potential collision if they're coming from the left or the right side. You've got your guidelines there too that are static and dynamic, so you've got those available on top of that. Then you've got your reverse brake assist here too. So if you are in reverse and you're backing up and there's an obstacle there that you don't see, the vehicle can actually brake for you. Towing options are available here too, so you can add a trailer into the vehicle, manage active trailers, and then there's also trailer sway control. So if the vehicle senses that there's trailer sway going on, it can automatically apply engine braking in order to be able to get that trailer sway under control. There's your digital owner's manual available here too. So where this comes into play is if you're getting some sort of weird messages inside of the cluster screen, you can kind of look around to see what's going on here. So if this video didn't help out, your digital owner's manual will be able to help out with the majority of other issues that you're facing. There are a series of different apps that are available, so nothing all really exciting there. And then just underneath the screen here, so you've got your basic vent controls, Pro Trailer Backup Assist. So if you've got a trailer hooked up, you'd then be able to twist this in rather than counter steering the steering wheel, twist this direction that you want to go, and it's automatically going to counter steer for you. There's an auto hold setting here. So with the auto hold setting going, if you are in drive, you've come down to a complete stop, you take your foot off the brake, the car is not going to move. You've got some basics here for max defroster, 4-way blinkers. There's a hot button push to get to your 360 camera. So the 360 cam is not standard inside of the Maverick, but it's available there as an option. And you can move between all of your available views. So your 360 view, if you wanted a fuller back or front view, if you wanted a hitch view, a wide view, or your side-by-side mirror view. So if you're going off pavement, pulling at a tighter spaces, etc. You can change between songs or stations, adjust your volume, your push start there with your little 12 volt. There's also your power sliding rear window with your USB ports, wireless charge pad with your shifter there. So you've got your park reverse neutral drive with an available manual mode here too. So manual mode is there, but you've also got your paddle shifter. So plus on the right-hand side with your minus along the left. So if you wanted to drop gears in order to shoot up your RPMs to pass somebody, you can do that. But manual mode just gives you slightly more control when you're using the paddle shifters here. But if you've never used paddles and you want a better explanation of why to use them, when to use them, how to use them, etc., you'll find a walkthrough down in the description. Your electronic parking brake is there, so all you're going to do, pull up in order to be able to turn it on. You're going to push and hold the brake pedal, push down in order to turn it off. You can toggle your traction control off there. There's the auto start stop system, so that's the one that's potentially going to kill power to the engine if you come down to a complete stop. Here's the thing, every time you turn the truck off and back on again, you've just got to restart that system. Well, turn it back off again if you're not a big fan. And then, if you ever run into problems with the infotainment system, so let's say if Apple CarPlay is not working, Android Auto is not working, navigation's giving you troubles, you can do a full factory reset. So under your general settings and reset. But the downside of the factory reset is it's going to wipe everything from the infotainment system. So it's going to get rid of all of your presets that you've set up, phones that you've connected, etc. What you actually want to do is a soft screen reboot. In order to do that, you're just going to hop onto your steering wheel here. And there are two different buttons you're going to push. So it's going to be the volume down button along the left-hand side and your right seek button along the right-hand side. So you're going to be pushing and holding these buttons. So you're just going to push and hold. The screen's going to go crazy for a second here before it turns off. Once it does, you can release. And what we've done is entered a soft screen reboot. So it's the exact same thing as if you were to do a reset on your phone. So that should solve the majority of issues that you're facing. Like I said, if your phone's not connecting, if the radio's going wonky on you, Android Auto, Apple CarPlay aren't working, etc., that's what you want to try first. If that soft screen reboot doesn't work, then the next option is going to be to do a full factory reset. If the full factory reset doesn't work, then you're going to have to, I would say, either pull the battery next, but you're probably going to have to take it into your Ford dealership for them to diagnose what's going on. The armrest here has a great amount of space. There's no sunglasses holder, which, I mean, I'd like to see that there, or where they had it with the last generation Mustang down there, but nothing available here, unfortunately. The glove box is non-lockable. There's a good amount of space in that box. And then you've got your basic styling, so similar to a number of other Maverick vehicles, with a little storage tray there. There's a manual dimming, rear view mirror, up overhead, your basic controls for your cabin lights, and then there's also, inside of the high pack, a little panoramic, well, not panoramic, sorry, a little sunroof. So that's gonna open it up. It just opens things up beautifully, I think. From there, little ticket receipt holder on the outside there, and on the inside, there's a little vanity mirror that has lights built in there too. And then this little feller also stretches out to block all of the sun that might be hitting your face. But you're not going to really run into much from like many issues from a visibility perspective. Like your pillar's there, clean pillar over here, no issue whatsoever. Oh, it's nice. So again, it's very similar feature set to what you're going to find in the rest of the Maverick lineup. So even back here, like I like that blue, that Velocity blue there is beautiful. Your seats, similar setup here. So I've got the driver's seat set up for myself being 6 feet tall. And back here, I've got some knee space, I've got some foot space, and I've also got some head space too. So see up overhead, yeah, the same amount as the front end. So 3.5, 4-ish inches of head space. So again, if you're 6 feet tall, 6'3", you might be, I'm not going to say should, you might be, because it's just going to depend on how tall the driver is, because if the driver's taller, you're not going to really fit back here. But there's a hump in the middle. So could you fit 3 full-size adults back here? Yes, but it's going to be a little bit tight there. No, actually, you know what? I don't spend enough time in the middle row, or the second row here of the Maverick, but the middle seat, it's actually surprisingly amount of cushion to it. That's really nice. Oh, yeah. That's one thing I usually always complain about, is the middle seat in the second row is always brutal, but Ford's done something here. The cushion is nice. All of your anchor points are there. Top tethers are behind the seats. I'll show you in a sec. Cup holders are built right in. And then you've got some power points in the back. So 2 USB Type-C charge ports with a little wall plug back there too. There are map pockets with that same nice stitching behind both the driver passenger side. Handle and a hook with a little overhead light. Same idea here. So a little handle and a hook there too. Then you've got your rubberized mat in the back there too. Seat here can be lifted up. And when you do, you've got a boatload of space. I mean, that's a beautiful amount of space. And when this is up, it's locked into place. You just need to pull to drop down. And then you've got your tab along the top. So to get to your top tether points, you just got to pull and lower that down. And you've got access to all of your top tether points there. So all 3, but then you've also got access to the jack stand and the white spigot. So if you ever need to fill up using a jerry can, it's the white spigot first, and then you've got your jack stand there too. So if you wanted to change tires out yourself, you could in case one's popped on you, but you do also have access to Ford roadside assistance if you need it. You're going to find LED tail lamps in the rear end of the Maverick, regardless of which trim level you're looking at. Walking up to the truck at night does look pretty nice, but from a styling perspective, one thing that sets the Lobo apart, blacked out Ford badges. But outside of that, the styling's going to be the same back here. There is an available rear park sensing system in the ride, and then you're always going to have the backup camera there too. Towing inside of the Maverick is possible. You're at least going to have 2,000 pound towing capacity if you're looking at the factory tow option. If you want to get a higher towing capacity, go for the 4K tow pack. So that's available in a series of different configurations, except the Lobo. So you're not going to be able to find the 4K tow package inside of the Lobo trim level, which means that you're maxing out at 2,000 pound towing capacity. You're going to find the 4-pin wiring harness down there, the receiver, and then the spare tire is located just underneath the truck with the jack stand just in behind the second row seats. The tailgate inside of the Lobo in every trim level is lockable. And then there's also a spray-in bed liner here. But before we get to the bed, payload inside of the Ford Maverick is going to depend on which trim level that you're in. The max payload capacity inside of the truck is 1,500 pounds. But inside of the Lobo, that drops down to a little over 1,000 pounds. So if you look at the little yellow door sticker, it's 1,016 pounds as your max payload capacity. So you start throwing some things into the bed of the truck. Let's say you're hauling a 1,000-pound trailer with a 100-pound tongue weight, etc. You're going to really hit that max payload capacity fairly quickly. So you might have to look at something like the Ranger or the F-150, just depending on what you're planning on doing with the truck. So that's something to consider. So the Lobo does have some limitations. Along the left side, you're going to find a light control for your LED bed lighting, top and bottom. There's a 400-watt wall plug in the back here too. And then along the right-hand side, you're going to find a little storage cubby as well. And then you've got the flex bed capabilities with a boatload of different parts that are available. So if you wanted to really customize this bed, you could. There's even an available tent from Ford directly. There's some aftermarket ones too. So if you wanted to set this up and sleep under the stars, you absolutely could inside of this truck. I really like what Ford's done with the Maverick. It's been a huge hit for them so far. Subcompact truck with great capabilities. It's easy to see why that's the case. And filling up fuel inside of the Maverick is done just along the driver's side. It's an unlocked cover that has a capless system, which also features anti-siphon technology. Looking at the fuel quality inside of the Maverick, it doesn't matter which trim level that you're looking at. Regular 87 octane, so regular gas is all you need to use inside of this ride. Having said that, I mentioned in all my videos with Ford, the horsepower and torque specs that are achieved are all done using a premium fuel. So do you need to use a 91? No, but if you want the best possible performance, a 91. Turbos just like that higher octane rating, but you can get away with 87, no problem. Looking at the overall fuel economy though, inside of the Maverick, you're going to get way better fuel economy inside of the hybrid compared to the regular gas version of the ride. But the 2-liter turbo is a beautiful balance because it's a turbocharged engine. It's also going to give you great overall fuel economy. If you're just cruising on the highway, I've been getting better than Ford's stated fuel economy numbers. About the same as what you can expect on regular city driving, depending on your driving habits. I like to have fun and green lights and just gun it, but that's going to come down to a matter of preference. But if you granny drive it, you do get pretty good economy inside of this truck. So I do have to say that I really enjoy the Maverick, but there's something different about the Lobo in comparison. So the all-wheel drive system inside of the ride is the advanced version, which means you've got torque vectoring, which I'll explain in a few minutes. But the 7-speed transmission inside of the ride is excellent, and it gives it a much different growl and whine that you get from the turbo in comparison to the rest of the Maverick lineup. It sounds really good. Some on-road handling here. Beautiful. Yeah, you can absolutely hear the turbo whine inside of this in the best possible way. It sounds so good. So I'm absolutely going to give the Maverick Lobo that. It's fantastic. So the sound is great. The overall cabin noise inside of the ride, it's not the most quiet cabin out there, but it is fairly quiet at the same time. And that was everything you needed to know about the Ford Maverick Lobo. You can find all of the build details for this one down in the description, with links off to Ford Canada and US. But if you found this video useful, give it a thumbs up, share it with someone if you think they might find it helpful. And until I see you next time, Take care.